Hi everyone, welcome to ISAC Vancouver Chapter's SheLeadsTech podcast once again. Today's guest is someone who understands risk not as fear, but as clarity. Someone who sees the moving parts of an institution, its people, its pressures, its vulnerabilities, and builds the conditions where learning and discovery can thrive. Rae Ann Aldridge, here, leads safety and risk services at UBC, guiding the teams who keep our campuses safe, resilient, and ready for whatever comes our way. Her path has taken her through more than 25 years of health and safety work, and her impact has been recognized nationally, from Canada's safest employer to her award as Safety Leader of the Year. She is a chemical engineer by training, a Canadian registered safety professional, a trusted voice in higher education, and someone who has learned to lead at the intersections, where emergencies, people, systems, and decisions all converge. Rae Ann, we're honored to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you, Thais. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start with your story, and our theme today is when leadership, not code, runs the room. And you've built a whole career leading highly technical teams without necessarily being the technical person yourself. How would you describe your leadership approach in these situations?
Yeah, great questions to start us off, Thais. I would say, really there's two important considerations for leadership, particularly for those technical environments. And I would say one is you have to build extremely strong teams. So where you lack in the skills, you want to make sure that you build teams that have those kinds of skills. And the second one, I think, is trust. And so being able to trust my leadership team, their skills and abilities to help guide my decisions. So, I think I'm versed enough to ask the good questions of those teams to help drive to good decisions. My job is really to help them set a vision, set the priorities, and then my job is to open the doors to allow them to be successful. The two things I would say that are most important are build strong technical teams and then trust those teams.
Absolutely. And what do you think people misunderstand about leading technical teams when you're not yourself the technical expert?
Yeah, great question. I think they think you have all the answers, and I do not have all the answers. Far from it. I rely on my teams really to bring that technical expert to the table. A lot of times, though, I feel like my job is to be able to translate that. And so, we're at the executive table. I should be able to inform that executive table without having to bring the technical experts to the table, because they're not a table full of experts. Mm-hmm. And so, if I can translate for the executive to understand, that's, positive. And when I need that technical expertise, though, at the table, quite often I bring those leaders with me.
I think that's one of the greatest strengths of you being a non-technical person leading a technical team, the power of translation to a non-technical audience. Are there any other strengths that you think that are overlooked?
You want to ask the hard questions about stakeholder engagement. You want to ask the hard questions about, things like budget and all those other components that are questions you're going to be asked at the executive table with other partners.
Do you find that those hard questions tend to be more or less the same, regardless of what's the technical expertise?
Yeah, they are. They are. 100%. Because inside my portfolio, PRISM, of course, is the deepest technical team inside my portfolio.
PRISM is my team.
Right. The highly technically competent privacy and information security management team. But I also have insurance, I have health and safety, I have security, I have environment, I have emergency management. I cannot be a deep technical expert in those areas. And so, to be able to translate the needs of those teams, fundamentally it is the same across all of them. Lots of times it's about resourcing, lots of times it's about impact, compliance, and risk.
Absolutely. And how do you balance that deep aspect of trust and delegation, and when to be more directive and when to be setting priorities and expectations, and also trusting and delegating because you don't have the technical expertise, that fine balance between when do you push a little bit more, when you pull a little bit more?
Yeah, I think there's a number of ways I do this. Lots of times I test it. So I'll test it with our CIO, I'll test it with other leaders on campus who I trust in decision making. I also rely on some benchmarking. So I'm looking at like, what are other post-secondaries doing in this area? You know, does this make sense to be driving this way? And then of course, I look at some of the fundamental pieces like, are we aligning with the president's vision? Are we aligning with the strategic plan for the VPFO, for our vice president, and also for our strategic plan inside this safety and risk services strategic plan? So all of those kinds of things are sort of helping me to drive to strong decision making.
One of the biggest gaps in organizations today is translated between technology and the rest of the business. Not to say that university is a business, it is not, but being that translator between what the rest of the university needs and what technology is and how to make those two converge. How do you see your role as that bridge?
Yeah, I feel like my role as an operational risk leader is really to put it in a risk framework. So a lot of times I will translate around what that institutional risk looks like, or what the impact is to the campus and the operations, and then mitigation. So, you know, sometimes I find that risk language, and that's probably what I use to bridge a lot of time between the technical and the decisions that need to be made.
And so I think for that, and you mentioned this in another conversation that we had, you need to be a very good listener. My question to you is, how do you make sure that your technical teams feel seen and feel understood by senior leadership, and vice versa? Because I think that's maybe the biggest Lego piece where you fit one, like the butt of one with the other piece of the other, and you make that connection, having that technical person tell you their technical terms and tell you what it means and how that's going to impact, and then the senior leadership get that message across, and you having to be that translator. But your team needs to understand that they were heard and they were seen, and you also played that role of the receptor, maybe. Right, almost like a radio receptor.
Right. One of the ways I find that's really, really helped me to understand the technical areas better, and to help the PRISM team in particular drive some of their programming and changes, is that I pre-meet.
For everyone who's listening, who's hearing PRISM and don't know what that is, PRISM is the Privacy and Information Security Management. So we have a big job at UBC. I personally am the manager of the compliance program. There's another team with us that does the privacy impact assessments and the security threat and risk assessments, and also our privacy and information security trainings that we give to the whole universities is all developed within the spectrum of PRISM.
Yeah.
So
big job.
Big job.
In a highly decentralized environment with 75,000 students and 20,000 faculty and staff. It's a full campus with lots of work to be done.
I was going to say a small town, but it's not too small. It's
we're like your medium-sized city. Exactly. Never a dull day here.
Never a dull day here, especially in Rae Ann's life.
Yeah.
Her phone is always
always binging. Yes, it is.
Okay, and exactly because of that, I think one of Rae Ann's biggest virtues is creating a psychologically safe environment for this team. Not only she creates a psychologically safe space for her team, but also for all the rest of the constituency here who is relying on safety and risk services to feel safe and provide those services. So my question to you is, how do you do that? Because to me that is like mind-blowing, and I honestly don't know, because Rae Ann also has a personal life, guys.
Some days. Well, you do this too, Thais. I feel like it really is
much more skill.
But it feels like it's a skill of building relationships, right? Yeah. That's how you get a psychologically safe environment. You know your people. You know what's happening in their personal lives as well as their work lives. You don't judge. I don't judge my team. We have open dialogue. We blue sky decision making and blue sky strategic planning. We do it as a team. We don't do it in a vacuum. And I think that relationship piece, though, particularly in a campus environment where, like I said, it's highly decentralized, and so you really rely on those connections to reach out when you have a situation arise. And so I really think that it is open dialogue, no judgment, and really good relationship building.
Yeah, I still want to know the secret to keeping your cool and your calm.
Well, my secret is you can't run around with your hair on fire, because as a leader, if you run around with your hair on fire, your poor people are also with their hair on fire, and that's not the way to run an organization.
Yeah, I know. It also like getting those calls like from the president to the manager and getting everybody to calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Deep breathing.
Deep breathing.
Yes, exactly.
Breathwork techniques. Taken up. But bringing you back to PRISM, because it's, like you said, the most technical team that you have. Yeah. Bringing you back to 5 years ago when you started in this function and when somebody first handed you this gift of PRISM.
Yeah.
How did it first feel to you? And how do you feel about it now? Like, how was that arc for you of that somebody first telling you, now you're leading a technical team. Now you have information security, cybersecurity, privacy.
Yes.
And then 5 years later, how does it feel for you?
Yeah. I have to tell you, when I first stepped into the shoes at UBC, which was January of 2020, just in time for COVID, I was like, what is this doing in this? What is this doing in my portfolio? It felt like an outlier. And it took me a while. After I understood the governance structure, I had a better understanding of why it sat inside safety and risk services. But it took me a long time, like I mentioned earlier, to actually get my arms wrapped around that governance structure, because it is so complicated. Who are those people? Why are they at the table? What decision-making authority do they have? It took me a long time, probably 2 years, really to figure that out and get the lay of the land. And I would say now I feel so privileged to be, working with the PRISM team, because it's an amazing group of people like yourself that have done amazing work, leading edge work, award-winning work even.
We did win an award.
Yes, they won a CABO award.
We did in the same year.
Absolutely, it was amazing.
Yes.
And I just think so proud and so privileged to be leading the team now, and I really enjoy the work that comes out of there, and I can actually make the connections now between the rest of my portfolio and the PRISM team. And I know you're going to ask me later on a little bit more about that, but I do feel that connection between the other units and PRISM is now much more clear in my mind, and it's allowed me, I think, to be more effective to help PRISM drive compliance support program, for instance, which was the award-winning program at a PRISM. And so at the beginning, I was like, what am I doing here, and why is this team in my portfolio? And now, like I said, I feel very privileged to be part of the PRISM team. It's been a terrific, really steep learning curve for me. There's some language that I need help with, some of the IT speak, but that your team and the PRISM team is just terrific in helping me to grow.
Yeah, and likewise. I mean, we've been privileged to be led by you, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. That's so nice of you to say.
We're having a moment.
We are.
I just want, I don't know, maybe because you're so calm and collected, you don't have that freak out moment where you're like, what? IT? I know nothing about IT.
I did have one of those freak out moments at the beginning. I was like, what? You'll have to put that in easier language.
Like I'm a fifth grader, please.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, now even more complicated with AI and everything else. But we are surrounded by brilliance on that team, and so they help navigate for me, and they answer all my questions. Yeah, even all my stupid questions.
They're not stupid, and most of all, because we get all that, we can engage with the rest of the campus, and because our internal clients is everybody.
Exactly.
From all backgrounds, so there is no stupid question. There's questions coming from different backgrounds, and we need to learn to answer all of them.
Exactly.
So we need to be prepared to answer a question coming from a member of the Faculty of Arts as much as a member from the Faculty of Computer Sciences.
Correct.
And to be honest, it's much harder to answer computer
Science,
science
yes.
than arts.
I'm not surprised.
It is insane. Yeah, so we it's a learning process for all of us, I guess. Would you say that there's a help you, help me dynamic?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what do the technical teams need to set you up so that you can be the best possible advocate for them?
Yeah. You know, one of the people on your team, actually Susan Johnson used this statement one time where she said, clarity is a gift. Mm-hmm. And I had never thought about it in that context, but she is so absolutely right. And so when you talk about what do those technical teams need to provide to me, it's clarity. Mm-hmm. Clarity of purpose, clarity of vision, clarity of communications. Because when I understand, I can advocate, right? When I see an opportunity that I'm like, where's PRISM? Why aren't they at this table? I can advocate if there's clarity of the purpose and vision, right? And so I do think clarity and communication, particularly for non-technical folks, is truly an important piece of the puzzle.
The tech landscape is changing constantly. Tools, risks, expectations, and I think risk is exactly your ballpark here. How do you lead teams through the volatility without getting lost in technical detail?
Oh man. I try to have a bit of tech awareness. I am not tech deep. So I try to get a bit of an understanding of what's happening in the environment and on the landscape without deep diving, because I can't be and I'm not a tech expert.
Yeah, and it's changing, right? So as much as we try to catch up, we're always chasing after our own tails.
Absolutely.
And even the risk landscape is, outside of tech, the risk landscape is changing. So we need to be always
100%.
Hyper aware.
Particularly, I guess, just because I have emergency management and inside my portfolio, I'm also hyper aware of what's happening with the bad guys and our bad actors and what's going on out there in that world, which is why I like to listen in on some of the CCCS updates.
It's funny that you mentioned them, because I was going to ask you, you have a portfolio that seems to be disconnected, but I think there's one little word that kind of makes them converge, which is incident. So
yeah,
I wanted you to talk a little bit about approaching that interconnection where emergency preparedness and insurance and your diverse teams, they kind of come together in different spaces or sometimes at the same time. And how do you approach leading them in that way? How do you make those connections and make that opportunity for collaboration to thrive?
It's a good question. This is actually, that's the joy of my job. Actually, that's what I love doing the most, is going, there's dots here that need to be connected, and we can do that inside SRS. Everything from our cyber insurance application, for instance, it's a 3-month process to get through that application form. It's not a small task. And so connecting those two and having alignment about risk appetite for insurance purposes is really important. And then for incidents, as you mentioned, yes, we do a lot of tabletopping. I'll say tabletopping. We do manage incidents as well, but we are just preparing, for instance, right now to do an executive tabletop exercise for a cyber incident in January. And so great time to bring in the emergency management team, great time to bring in the IT team who run our harmonized incident response protocols, great time to bring in the PRISM team to help us tabletop, and insurance, of course, because we have to include them in the process for call-outs and for protocols. And so what a great opportunity to have the SRS team lead that tabletop exercise with IT playing a secondary role on the harmonized incident response side. So it is, it's a wonderful opportunity to connect all the dots, to sort of run through what does it look like, what are we missing, what needs to be updated, our process still good? Do we still need, do we need to change anything inside our current protocols? And it's a great time to build the relationships with the with the IT teams as well. So for instance, we've got a working group pulled for that tabletop in January, and that working group is really fundamental to being successful through an incident. And so the Harmonized Incident Response team is in the room, kind of walking us through and I would say putting the finishing touches on the tabletop exercise. So yeah, so connecting dots, bringing the team together, doing some special project work, which we're doing right now with insurance and PRISM, doing cyber application forums, and then of course tabletoping and working through incidents that happen on campus from a cyber security perspective.
Amazing. Who doesn't love a tabletop exercise?
Yeah. Actually, this is going to be great. I love them all. They're great. They're so...
it's fun.
They are fun.
I like it.
They're really fun. They're really a great opportunity for the executive to actually think about what their role is. A great opportunity for them to think about how they're going to engage their people and also the board in some of this. So it's 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours.
And I actually genuinely think they're fun.
Yeah, I do too.
Crazy.
They're just a lot of work to get them ready.
It is a lot
Because
of work.
you want to make sure you're putting your right foot forward when you're in front of the exec and you're not wasting anybody's time.
Yeah. But I think we are fortunate to have some great leaders.
We are.
Between you and Jennifer and Bruce.
Our CIO is amazing, and we're just finalizing our CISO, and so all of those people are really important people to have aligned when you're doing something like that, like a cyber tabletop.
What would be the advice you would give to a leader stepping into a role that has technical teams under your portfolio while not being a technical person yourself?
Back to number one, make sure you've got strong technical teams, right? Build strong teams. And if you don't have the right people, don't be afraid to make a change. I think that's really important. And if you aren't sure of your people, then you do stakeholder engagement. Do some reach out, get some other opinions, some of that, I think. But I would say it is building strong teams, and if you feel like you need to make change, don't be afraid to make the change to make sure you've got the strong teams.
Yeah, absolutely. As we are reaching almost a close, and as technology continues to evolve, what leadership qualities do you think will matter more than technical expertise in the next decade? Do you think that's going to change from what you have now?
Yeah, so I'm really hopeful that, and I'm starting to see it, a little bit of it, that the leadership qualities that are now, I think, are being looked for are things like adaptability, resilience. Like, those are such important qualities to help drive change. You need to be adaptable because our world is it's changing overnight.
Yeah.
So you need to be adaptable. You need to be resilient so that you can work when things are changing. You can find other ways to be successful. You need to have strong EI, I would say. I think that's going to be, another...
Emotional intelligence, for
totally.
sure.
Leadership qualities, I think emotional intelligence is going to be much more valued perhaps than we have seen. Having empathy, being an active listener, building relationships, those kinds of qualities I'm hopeful are going to be really valued in the future. And then I would say inclusive leadership. So when you're an inclusive leader, just being open to dialogues and discussions with all kinds of folks to help drive your initiatives. So I would say those kinds of qualities, I think, more than just the technical pieces, I think will be important.
Amazing. To finalize, if listeners remember just one insight from this conversation, what would you hope it will be?
I think what I'd like to say is that leadership is transferable. So you can lead in anywhere you like if you are able to sort of set a vision, prioritize work, and then open doors. I think that's my role. My role is really, as a leader, is to make my people successful, right? Is to lead them to success. And so I feel like you can do that in any discipline. It's not about being technical. it is about setting your people up for success. And so I think the one thing I would leave, if I had one thing I would say to people, if they remembered one thing, it's trust your leaders. Trust your leaders. They are the people with the best knowledge to help drive the portfolio and the programming and the initiatives and whatever forward. Trust your leaders.
That's great. Rae Ann, thank you so much for being with me here today. We're at the beautiful Alumni Center at UBC. The sun is shining on us. It's almost Christmas Eve.
Yes.
When we're recording this, and I want to say it's been such a pleasure. You bring so much depth into this team. We could be just a bunch of techies talking geek, and you've been just this very inspirational leaders to all of us, being there,
Thank you, Tiny.
present every day, opening your doors to talk to us every single day and welcoming us and stopping to really talk, to really look at us in the eye and just being present. I think that's amazing. So I really want to appreciate you. Thank you for being here. I hope that everybody who's listening enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for the next one. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Therese.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.